Ken Laurel.
Here comes Mike. Yay!
So,
We like to make a grand entrance.
looking at our agenda, are there any public comments on items that are not on the agenda? If so, now would be the opportunity. All right, let's move to the minutes, beginning with the December 4th, 2014 minutes.
I have a comment.
I do too.
Okay?
So, on page 3 of 4, in the bullet items in the center of the page, the last bullet is that the design would benefit from a unified architectural character, more sloping roof elements, and it's not more prominent commercial appearance, it was more commercial area.
I'm sorry, you're where,
I'm the last bullet in the center bullets on page 3.
right?
It's not commercial appearance, we wanted more commercial area.
I have a comment.
Sure.
On page 2, next to the last paragraph, it says commissioners, and it names 4 commissioners, and it doesn't name me. All conveyed they had ex parte meetings with the applicant. I did disclose at the meeting that I did, and I so wrote that when I got this, so I'd like to add my name into that.
So I have 2 typos. The first one is on the consent calendar, number 1. It's 500 feet of the subject property, handed the gavel to the commission Moisen. It should be Commissioner Moisen.
Hey, he is the commission.
He is the commission. So on
We don't count.
All right, on page 3, after all those bullets, it says, though the chair, I think it's through the chair. Assistant City Manager Walgreens suggested that the commission continue its review. So I think he did it through it, not though it.
Subject to those corrections, I move that the minutes of the December 4th meeting be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I and we abstain from whatever we were abstaining that day.
Same
For
for
the
me.
record.
So it's 402?
Yeah, so you voted for the minutes but abstaining on,
The topics we were not here for.
yeah, okay.
As was
Same for
the
me.
chair.
Okay, moving on to the minutes of December 18th. Any comments?
I move that we accept the minutes as shown for December 18th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
People that weren't here shouldn't have voted on it.
Vineet, you weren't here?
I wasn't here.
Yeah, unless
I didn't.
Well, unless they watched the
video, and,
right?
and reconstitute. Did you do that? Or no, you were here.
But the meeting I missed, I did watch the video.
Oh, okay, all right,
I wasn't here. I'm
You're very good.
okay.
Very impressive.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, so you
wasn't here.
should abstain on it, unless you reconstituted yourself.
I mean, I saw online, but I wasn't here physically.
Yeah, but did you watch the, if
Yeah.
you watched the video,
Yeah.
then you can vote.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it's just Moisen.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, is the commission comfortable with moving to item 3, which is for public hearing, and then coming back to item 2?
That makes sense because
I would
then you
prefer
won't have to
that.
come and go.
We would like that.
Everyone okay with that?
I'm okay with
Trying
it.
to find out what Mr. Laurel is.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving to item 3, that is up for public hearing, 14-UP-10. Start with staff presentation. And if there's anyone that would like to speak on this, you should be filling out a card in the back and submitting it to us now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This first item is a request for a conditional use permit to operate a new wine and beer lounge in the downtown commercial retail service or retail sales district on First Street. The subject property is a vacant commercial space located between the Webtown Cleaners and the Daily Method, just across the street from the nearing completion 400 Main new mixed-use project. It's 975 square feet. There will be some level of food service, but it's primarily a wine and beer lounge with also tea and coffee being served. As a result of the nature of the use, not being a restaurant with ancillary wine and beer service, but being a wine and beer lounge, it is treated like a cocktail lounge, and therefore a conditional use permit is necessary. The primary purpose of a conditional use permit for a true cocktail lounge is to regulate things like hours of operation, live entertainment, hours of cleanup. If it's some bars can be kind of raucous, and it's a means to control those kinds of activities. This is a very different type of wine and beer service activity, and staff feels that all the necessary findings can be made to recommend approval of the conditional use permit. And since it is within a existing commercial space, this would be a final action with the Planning and Transportation Commission. This would not then go up to the City Council as a recommendation. This would be a final action.
So, James, I had a question for you. If you're
Yes.
ready. Okay. So, on the second paragraph, the hours of operation, it says in the staff report it's from 12 to 10, but the hours may be extended up to 1 a.m. in the future. And then on attachment B, the planned hours of operation, or the proposed maximum hours were from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m., and the planned hours were from like 10 to 6, 12 to 8. I mean, so it didn't seem like that reflected that it's really from 12 to 10. It was really Friday and Saturday, it was 12 to 10, but the other hours would be, and I wondered about, like, especially on Saturday, that, there's early football games and activities, and whether that's been, I want to make sure that people understand that the hours of operation may not be 12 to 10 as stated in the
Right.
staff report.
Yeah, I think the best representation of the hours are in attachment B. This is really information for the commission. If we thought there was a concern with the hours, we could put conditions in the approval restricting those hours, but absent those concerns, it doesn't seem necessary to have hours listed that would then have to be modified if the business model modified. So if the commission has a concern with those hours, we can talk about that, but I think this just gives the commission a sense of what their anticipated range of being open is.
Yeah, I didn't have a concern, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that there was a kind of a discrepancy.
Right.
Can I ask James a question?
Sure.
James,
Any questions?
the condition of use, it says explicitly in the description and in the attachment that it will not be live music, but in the conditions of use, it does not include a condition of use that there not be live music. There should be, I'm presuming that's an oversight, and there should be?
I'm sorry, the question, they're not proposing live music? If they did do live music, it would be okay as long as they weren't exceeding the city's noise ordinance limitations?
Then I'm a little confused, because it explicitly says in the staff report that there won't be live music, and in attachment B, it says no live music or bands.
right.
So again, I just want to know what I'm providing a conditional use permit on, and if they're saying there's no live music and staff is recommending approval based on no live music, then
Again, that's just descriptive, so the commissioners understand what the business model is. If you have a concern with that, we can talk about that. But typically, if they have acoustic music, for example, and it's not exceeding our noise limits, then there's not an issue with that. If it exceeds our noise limits, we would deal with that from a code enforcement standpoint.
So I think if I understand correctly, what's happening is that right now they're not proposing any live music.
Right.
And that's what's stated in it. But whatever we approve today, they have the option of putting live music. That's what it
Yeah.
is, correct?
Yeah,
That-
I would
Unless
just,
we condition it otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Right.
right now, there's no restriction on the live music or not. What's in the staff report isn't going to be controlling, it's what's in the conditions of approval. So if you want to say their hours are from 10 a.m. to 1, or those are the maximum hours they can have, you can put that in. If you want to say no live music or bands, you can put that in, and then if there's a problem, the city has something to enforce. But right now, if they start doing live music or having bands, we just have the noise ordinance to go by, but we don't have a condition of approval to say that you're not allowed to do that, so.
But, does any restaurant in Los Altos have that somewhat onerous restriction? I mean, Los Altos Grill has a piano, so.
Well, that's what I was trying to
Seemed like
say,
it'd be
is
something
that we have very
reasonable.
few conditions on this business because we don't anticipate issues with this business. Once you start imposing conditions, they do have to be enforced, so if the hours of operation change, or they do an acoustical live set, that would be in violation of these conditions that the commission adopts. So unless there's a perceived need for them, I think that we're recommending very few conditions on this project. When we do condition live music, that's typically like a bar performance hall where we have complaints and we have issues and things go till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then we will restrict those types of businesses.
James, it's just that we have an inconsistency in the staff report, because the staff report says specifically, since there are no residential uses in the immediate vicinity, and emphasis here, business will not include any live music, there are no issues related to noise after 10 p.m. So that's where I'm.
But that's what the applicants are saying too, so those are consistent. If you want to put a condition there, they can't ever do live music,
No,
then we can do that.
I'm just trying to understand what the plan is, and
Sounds like they're leaving their options open.
Well, yeah, and
I
actually,
think the short answer is they don't plan to have live music, but there's nothing in our zoning code that would prohibit them down the road from having live music if it didn't violate our noise ordinance, right?
I think that's the same issue that Mike brought up about the hours. They are saying that they have a business model, they're going to start in one section, and then if business improves, hopefully they'll spread it out, and then if it turns out there's an East Coast football game and they want to open at 9 for that, or they're doing soccer from England, they'll be able to have some options. But I think the issue is, what I think I hear you saying, James, is that we should not, according to Jolie, put anything on the hours unless there's something specifically we want to put in so that there is flexibility. Because
Yeah,
if
if
it's
you-
not in the condition, there's no control, no matter what the staff report says, no matter what attachment B says.
Yeah, the
If it's
staff
in the
report is
conditions or it
being-
doesn't count.
Right, the staff
Yeah.
report's being descriptive. If there's not a perceived need for putting restrictions on the business, then I wouldn't see a need to have that as a condition of the use permit.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I'd like to make a motion.
No, let the applicant.
Applicant has an
applicant speak.
opportunity to speak.
Don't jump the gun.
Let the applicant speak and then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ken Laurel has
Joined.
is in the building.
The question I had was, what is our policy on signs that protrude from the surface of the building?
Depends on what kind of sign they are.
The only,
I just haven't seen any downtown, like, at all. Mm-hmm. And this one shows it in the drawing.
there is an allowance for blade signs, which are perpendicular to the building, that could
Right.
go out in the public right of
And
way.
the size, shape, national origin?
They're identified in the ordinance. Yeah, it's relatively small. But it's specific to blade signs.
Okay. So the building across the street has some little
Yeah.
decorative protuberances that are
Yeah, that's
blades.
not on the agenda.
Right.
Sorry.
But they,
Okay.
But right, sorry,
this,
yeah.
the staff will be reviewing the final sign permit and make sure that it complies with all of our, and the only one I can think of that can go into the public right of way is a blade sign.
Right. And since we're only looking at the use permit and the sign itself. Thank you, Jolie.
Okay, so now the applicant has an opportunity to speak. Is the applicant interested, or architect?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for your time. My name is Roderick Newman, and commissioners, please allow me to introduce my business, Honcho, and to answer any questions, obviously, that you may have. My wife and I made the decision to move to Los Altos a year ago, and are delighted to call this home now, where I hope to open my first business in the downtown Triangle. Upon meeting members of the community, both merchants and residents alike, it's been wonderful to receive such a warm welcome, so much support and valued feedback, and for that I'm genuinely grateful. For the better part of 20 years, I've been dedicated to the foundation of warm and gracious hospitality. That journey began as a young Santa Barbara barista and progressed through a career marked by milestones ranging from assistant food and beverage director for the Four Seasons in Carlsbad, management of both the Chow and Park Chow restaurant group in San Francisco, and ultimately the opening of the Dosa Restaurant Group's flagship location in Pacific Heights in San Francisco. Along the way, I've had the pleasure and responsibility of creating menus, developing a positive culture, and performing all of their duties attendant to those respective positions. I've worked alongside some very talented people, to say the least. I've been in the planning stages of Honcho for nearly a year, and I've benefited from a wonderful team, including my architect, Elmer Lynn, my designer, John Sarovic. I really wish to establish a place where the community can gather and socialize, meet with friends and business colleagues alike. And it will be an inviting, relaxing, comfortable atmosphere with comfortable lounge seating for approximately 30 people and a bar which will seat 12. Additionally, it'll be the Honcho will be available for private events and meetings. And as the owner, I will be on site daily and look forward to developing and mentoring staff, consistently maintaining the service standards I've practiced throughout my career. An approachable and balanced menu will highlight offerings such as craft beer, wine, champagne, cider, coffees, and tea, a variety of small plates, and desserts. We'll obtain product from local purveyors when possible. However, certain select items will be sourced elsewhere. In summary, while the underlying framework of the business is fortified by my years of experience, I'd like to see this as a collaborative venture with patrons whose preferences will influence the menu as we grow steadily, adding additional food and beverage items in the future. So I look forward to many years of involvement with the community here in Los Altos, participating in local events such as Farmers Market, First Fridays, and the various art and wine festivals throughout the year. So once again, I'm very happy to answer questions, and thank you all very much, and I hope to see you around at Honcho soon. Commissioners,
Thank
you're welcome.
Any questions for the applicant?
I want to know why he named it Honcho.
Well, you know, choosing a name's tricky. It's an excellent question, but when I was a little kid, my mom used to say, I think you're the real head honcho around here. So if you want to have fun with it, it's easy to remember. It's 2 syllables, and that's the extent
Do you
of
know
it.
where it comes from?
Originally, I believe it was a Japanese term from World War II, Hancho, which meant leader. So it's kind of changed over the years, obviously. So it's kind of a non-word, I
Yeah,
suppose.
actually, U.S. soldiers brought it back.
Sure.
When they occupied Japan.
Any other questions? Okay. We have 3 requests to speak from members in the community. Why don't we start with Jason Strubing?
Thank you.
And James, are you going to do the 3-minute clock? I know that you don't have your assistant.
I will do this.
Just, I know how we want to keep everybody
Fair.
on track.
Good evening. My name is Jason Strubing. I own and operate Skateworks at 379 State Street in downtown Los Altos, and I'm here tonight in support of the applicant. I came here, just to give you a little background, I've been here for 3 years. I came in 2011 as a pop-up, and, you know, kind of came to test the waters in what seemed like a sleepy little town, and despite the constant street closures and ongoing construction on my end of State Street, been able to endure these past 3 years, and as of December of this year, just entered into my first long-term lease. That decision to stay long-term was based both on the warmth and acceptance I've felt with the community over the last few years, and also that now that the construction projects are wrapped up, to hopefully have the light at the end of the tunnel and kind of see what can happen now that there's some vibrancy in downtown. With Tin Pot opening recently, I've already seen a little noticeable increase in foot traffic. With Cho's opening possibly as soon as next week, I only expect that to continue and increase. And with the auspice of Honcho opening, I think that'll be the icing on the cake and having a little bit of liveliness in what's been kind of a no man's land corridor of downtown. So I would certainly welcome Honcho as our neighbor, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, Rosalind Bordeaux, and then the third speaker will be D.I.K. Deek Lagerwerf.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this proposed project at 235 First Street. My name is Rosalind Bordeaux, and I grew up in the south end of Palo Alto, so I actually spent a lot of time in downtown Los Altos as a young child and then as a teenager and young adult. I recently moved back here from Chicago in the last year or so with my husband and my 3 very small children, and we are living just a couple of blocks from the downtown core. The transformation to the downtown core over the last 40 years that I've seen has just been absolutely thrilling to witness. And as someone who was once a small business owner, excuse me, I'm hugely supportive of local producers and artisans and all of the small businesses that are here. But as a parent, the family-friendly nature of it is also incredibly important to me, and the activities are one of the reasons that my family loves to spend so much time in the downtown area. Having said that, while we love to spend time as a family in the downtown area, I do feel that our local options for evening activities with our adult friends is somewhat limited. And in the first place, like so many of us who live in this area right near one of the best wine regions in the world, there's very few options here for people who are lovers of wine. And there are certainly many establishments in Los Altos that serve wine, and that is certainly true, but those establishments tend to have food as their core focus and not wine. And if you are, a lover of wine, and particularly small artisan producers and things like that, you really don't have an outlet in the local area to go to. You have to go as far as downtown Palo Alto or maybe even San Francisco to really, get that community of people who love wine and really value that in an area that, is so close to the Napa Valley. It just seems kind of crazy. So the second thing I've also heard is that Los Altos is sometimes referred to as like a bedroom town, and implying that everyone is asleep by 8 p.m. And while I have 3 small children, 3 children under 3 years old, in fact, I'm certainly sympathetic to the need to get sleep. But I also feel that, sometimes community is not merely a daytime activity. It's true community is what happens when you get out of your bed, when you get out of your house in the evening, and get to know the people and your friends and neighbors. So community happens when you have a place to savor a beautifully built Pinot Noir with a new friend that you met at the Daily Method. Community is what happens when you can meet your neighbors in a place that is both fun and conducive for conversation. Community is what happens when you find other people that love the things that you love, like fine wines and artisan producers and that sort of thing. And then I think community sometimes needs to happen after the kids are in bed and in a place that's physically in your community. So I think Honcho is very well positioned to fill this gap. As a wine bar, it's going to offer sophistication in an atmosphere that isn't available in a typical sports bar or a noisy restaurant. As a purveyor of artisan wines and small lot local producers, it will serve a community of wine lovers who also value the craftsmanship that isn't available in mass-produced, commercially available wine. And most of all, Honcho will hit the sweet spot as a place that makes our community more vibrant for adults while keeping things that make it a wonderful place for families too. So I urge you to approve the permit for Honcho.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker, Deek Lagerwerf.
Hello, my name is Dick Lagerwerf. I was born and raised here in Los Altos, lived a couple miles away, and spent my childhood running these streets. And recently moved, or didn't recently, a while ago left, came back the last 2 years, and found a big change in downtown. And the new progression and look and feel of town is really starting to lively up, and it's not a crazy party scene, but it's more of a nice relaxing nature. I have a family here. I live in the downtown core, and it's nice to know that there could be a place that we could relax, have a nice glass of wine, have maybe someone look after our kid, or even take them. I mean, it's one of those things that we look forward to having a position to relax and have meetings as well. So again, I'm for this project. And
Thank you. All right, let's close it up for just, yes.
Yeah, before you start, I'm going to make a recommendation, and staff is probably going to be mad at me, but I'm going to make a recommendation that you do put, I've been thinking about the hours, And from an enforcement point of view, I think we should have a condition on hours and just say maximum hours of operation daily, 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. Because I'm concerned that, let's just say they start opening at 6 a.m. or they start going till 2 a.m. It will be harder for us to enforce, and opening early could disturb other businesses or something. So if we have those, it will give them all the flexibility, and they don't have to open at 7, but they're able to, or they can go till 1, and then if they start staying later, we don't have any tool to do that if they start staying later. So I just think that's the hours that they proposed, and I think that they could live with them. It gives them great flexibility, and it gives them flexibility on those early game days and everything, but just from an enforcement point of view, I think we should.
Just to clarify, those would be the hours for open to the public? Like, for example, if something ended at 12:30 and they were cleaning and they had, if they needed to have someone cleaning for 2 hours, they could do that?
Yeah, they're saying maximum hours of operation, and so if people, but, you know, the thing that you
They'd have to
find...
be out of the building, you're saying?
No. But what
Public.
the problem is when deliveries start coming early, and so operation would be servicing the public, and if they were cleaning later, I mean, technically you can say 1 a.m. they have to be, that everything has to be shut down, but, and you can ask them about that, but what I'm concerned about is we do get complaints of people opening too early and disturbing neighborhoods or staying open too late. And if we don't put any controls in,
Right.
we don't have an enforcement mechanism. And, you know, the live music, I'm good with that because we do have a noise ordinance. So anyway, it's just something for you to consider, but I'm recommending some sort of limitation. And they believe that they can live with 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. So those are pretty broad hours.
So just to confirm with the applicant, is there any, it's a new issue? You haven't,
All that sounds fine to me. It was suggested by Zach Dahl that I put in potential hours, and I don't see being open till 1 a.m. except a few times a year for special events, if there's a private party, holiday time. Certainly, the earlier my hours may occur is by demand. If people want to work during the day, have a quiet place to meet with colleagues, and have some coffee and tea and whatnot. So I'm fine with the 7 to 1 for sure.
Okay.
And it's a small space, so music-wise, it's just going to be over the loudspeakers. That's the anticipation.
So perhaps to keep the hours flexible, since it is in the middle of a business district, it's not adjacent to a residential district, and you have Pete's right next door, which is the earliest business that opens. I would say those are operational hours and not get into what's happening interior prior to operational hours.
okay, agreed.
I had a question for staff. Because this is in the parking district, and the usage of the space before this building, or this restaurant was coming in, I don't know how that correlates, and I'm sure everybody else would love to know. So that and you can sit down, but it's really a question of, for staff, like, how does that work, and how do we look at the parking district so that people understand why this project is such?
The parking district is bounded by the north and south parking plazas with the central plazas in the middle. And it has very unique parking regulations because those properties in the parking district funded the creation of the parking plazas. And so the way it works is that for the first 100% of floor area ratio, meaning the size of the lot, meaning this square footage, any business can go in there. Any range of parking-intensive uses go in there without having to provide any additional parking. If a property exceeds 100% FAR, so typically that'd be a second floor on top of a first floor, they have to provide the zoning code allowance for that additional floor area ratio. So then you have different standards for office versus retail versus restaurants.
So the usage doesn't matter on the first floor?
Not on the first floor in the
It's
park.
already been calculated and figured out, and so...
In every other
viewers
business
just-
district, it does make a difference, but not in the parking
down-
plaza.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for discussion or a motion.
If there's no discussion, I'll make a motion.
What's the motion?
I make a motion that we approve the findings for 235 First Street, 1 through 2, A, B, C, D, and add as an E that the maximum hours of daily operation be 7 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Is that a E or a C? A 3?
E.
3, under
Three.
conditions.
3.
Okay, we can make it a
On
3.
3 under conditions on page
How
4.
about that? Good, okay. I'll
Do
close.
I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second.
All in,
Everybody second.
all in favor? say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Passes unanimously.
I wanted to discuss only because I'm so delighted that there's someone else to go at night after 8 o'clock when they roll up the streets.
Me too.
I only
Other
hope-
than Baskin Robbins. I would like something a little more, yeah, a little more than ice cream. I'd like something better.
Phoebe, we
Mine
won't
is
try and
more than
reach you via your cell phone.
I'm excited.
At 8
I mean,
o'clock, we just know where to
The team that
find you.
brought
Yeah.
Josa hit it out of the park in the city. We're lucky. Okay. Now, the next item, I'm going to have to recuse myself. Item 2, 14-D-04.
And I'll have to recuse myself.
Request of a fellow commissioner to chair. I
You
understand.
need to state why you're recusing yourself.
I'm recusing myself because I have an interest in 1,000 Fremont Avenue, which is within 500 feet of 999 Fremont Avenue.
And I'm recusing myself because our architectural firm is presenting the project.
Okay, Jolie, I understand Phoebe is going to be chairing, passing the gavel. Skadoodle.
So are you guys leaving the
Should we go
premises, or
back?
are you just going to stay in
Oh,
the
they
back?
have to leave the premises.
I know they do,
They're
but I'm
coming back-
saying,
coming
so
back
when we
for
come
the-
to the place, when we're done with this conversation, do we go find you, or?
I might be able to hear you.
Okay,
I may come back.
we'll go find you.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Won't be far.
playing pinochle, right?
Privilege.
So we'll just pause for a minute so the speakers go on so they can hear what's going on. But this item, number 2, is, discussion item is 14D04 and 14UP05. At the advice of our city attorney, I'm going to ask the applicant to speak for a moment because I understand that he would like to give some input before we address whether, the vote as to whether to continue or recommend continuance or denial.
So I had a question, and I think it's more procedural, and maybe this is back to Jolie,
Yes.
which is, so I'm trying to take the bigger picture of what happens if, right? So if we were to have a project before us, and we voted to turn it down, or I don't know what. Deny it, and then that was the end of it, what would happen? It would go to city council, and they could make the appeal? Do they have the option to come back to here to make an appeal to us?
Well, we're only recommending to city council.
Yes, so if you make a recommendation for approval or denial, it will go to the city council.
For any
either-
project? I'm trying to look
Yeah.
at it more like, I'd like to know
any
kind of.
project,
Any
yeah.
project, right?
That is this, it's a design and a use permit and subdivision. So it would go to council as a recommendation. Like this last use permit stayed with you and it was a final action. A use permit that goes with design review per our code, it goes all the way up the food chain, as I call it. And so the council, and let's say the council reviews the application and decides that they have changes or more changes have been submitted, they can they can vote to deny it, they can vote to approve it, they can send it back to the planning commission for your review based on new information and new designs. So they always have the option to
Right.
remand back to you.
But normally, what I'm trying to understand is if we recommend a denial, does the applicant get to come back before this body 2 weeks later, a month later, after that notion?
No, I would-
I'm trying to.
That's what we were talking about.
That's what we've been talking about, yeah. And if,
'Cause I
what
don't want, you know-
would be if, yeah, I've heard the word reconsider being brought up, but right now, we don't have a final action to reconsider.
understand that.
I would suggest if the applicant is going to have anything be reconsidered, it would be after the council's final action and final vote. He could technically ask that this decision, this vote be reconsidered, but that gets into a big procedural process. I think what the applicant, if he wants to submit new information or ask for your continued review, a continuance would be the best mechanism. And so I think that's what we've
But
been
we won't
discussing.
continue that today, it'll be another time.
Yes,
we can't vote
and
on it
even if,
today.
yes, and if it's continued, we would renotice and have the whole hearing, because tonight there aren't a lot of, it hasn't been, fully noticed, and so if it is continued, we would continue to a date certain, but renotice, so.
And the primary distinction here, and we've talked about this at the meeting, the decision was taken, and I haven't seen the Planning Commission take this procedure before, but because the findings were so extensive, the Commission wanted to review the final findings before taking a final action. So the distinction here, which is very unusual, is a final action has not yet been taken. So there's nothing that would preclude the Commission from opening a new discussion, but it's entirely up to the Commission. That's the distinction. If the findings had been expressed verbally at the December 8 meeting and they were voted on and they were adopted, it would have been finished, but they weren't. They were given to staff in draft format, and the Commission asked that they come back in final format for review and approval. So that's the distinction.
That's the
Yeah.
catch. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to hear from the applicant.
Right.
How much time are we giving the applicant?
5 minutes.
Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for taking the time this evening. Yes, we're requesting that the matter be referred back to staff for review. We've taken the last month and a half and done a great deal of work. We think we've redesigned the project. We've had an opportunity to provide that to you for a kind of a cursory review. And we think that that's the right thing to do, and we would certainly welcome that and appreciate that. Of course, during the last hearing, that was staff's intention, rather than there to have an action, was for it to be continued back to staff. So here we are a month and a half later. I would like to make that same request. And I do have designers here all ready to review the project with you for a few minutes as well. Dick and Judy, come on up.
I have to say that I was interested in having you speak to tell us what your intention was, but we can't review a project that hasn't been put in front of the public. And so, in fact, we can't see any new designs because we would be talking about something that wasn't appropriately noticed to the members of the town of Los Altos. And so what I hear you saying is that you would like the committee to consider continuing the project
Yes.
where we last
You can
left.
see a presentation tonight.
I disagree, Phoebe. I absolutely
You can
disagree.
see a
There's no reason
presentation.
they can't show us what they've done. We are
Yes.
not discussing it, we're not making a design review.
I'm really uncomfortable. I said this to you earlier. There are people who are very interested in this project, members of the
And it
public
was-
turned out
and
to be
it was-
Get a
members.
chance to come in
So-
publicly and
It
discuss
was noticed. It was on the agenda, and it was,
The agenda says, consideration of findings continued from the last meeting. It doesn't say that we're looking at new information. That was the thing I was very uncomfortable with this afternoon.
I would allow the applicant to present information. You can decide to continue it or not, or you can decide to act on it.
Well,
But Jolie, you're asking us to, we're supposed to be reviewing a decision, the input that was used to make our findings and our decision in December 4th. And now what you're saying is, we're supposed to consider new information and not give the public the opportunity to have any input.
Well,
Who said that?
That's not-
You're making that up.
No,
No.
the public
That's
doesn't
not
have
accurate.
any...
No, no,
The
they
public
have
hasn't...
plenty of input that will
Excuse-
be
excuse
publicly
me,
noticed.
Would you let me talk?
You can't, yeah.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, John.
We've not noticed this to tell the public that we're considering that it's being presented for a possible continuance. All it was noticed was that we were finalizing
the findings.
the findings,
But the
not to
applicant
notice the
gets to
public
speak
that we
to
were
the issue.
considering a
Gets to
continuance.
speak, and if the applicant wants to provide more information, he will be able to. It doesn't mean that you're going to go back and re-revise these findings, but under the Brown Act, this applicant has an ability to speak to this item.
Then,
Yeah, and it
per our
doesn't...
city attorney, why don't you take the last 3 minutes and give us a small presentation, and then we will take whatever public comment is available tonight, and then we will look at the findings.
Okay, and could we put the slide up? You have a slide to present? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Mike, do you want some more? Do you want some more? You want me to start?
Thank you. My name is Dick Tenarney, and my partner, Judy Symes, and I represent Design Associates West. We're a building design, interior design, and landscape design firm that's operated in Los Altos from July 3rd, 1980, and we also have lived here in town for that length of time. We were brought in by Greg to assist the existing architectural firm, M Designs. The relationship has worked out very well so far, and what we've been able to do is to make some recommendations to improve a proposal that had been made, I think, initially in July and then reproposed in December. Now, the substantial improvements that had been made, agreed, probably should have been here in December. But we're here now with an effort to comply with the requirements of the commission and to satisfy the interests of the local community and the merchants around Loyola Corners. We're not 100% there yet, but we think we've made some great strides in that direction. As you can see from the elevation, which is the A Street elevation, that the building has been reduced substantially by approximately 1,100 feet, where we've contracted or reduced the third floor. Originally, there were 5 condominiums above the retail on the first floor. There are now 4. There are 3 on the second floor, 1 on the third floor. Judy will speak to the issue of the exterior materials, but what we wanted to do was to take into consideration the architecture of the surrounding area. And we think we're well on the way to doing that. One of the issues where I think there was some contention in the beginning, understandably, was the large parapet, blue parapet, on the third floor on the first proposal. That's been removed, and there is a sloped roof now at the top of the second floor. As I say, the exterior materials, rather than being composite nature, we're going more toward natural materials, which we think would be a lot more conducive to the properties in the area. Judy?
So,
Have we reached the time limit?
We done?
Minutes? Okay. No, you have 2 minutes. I just want to make sure.
So, okay, I'll talk fast. So we've lived here for 30-something years. We know what Los Altos likes and wants. We had told Greg that this other building would be more of a Palo Alto building.
Talk into the microphone
I'm
because
sorry.
it's not going on the TV unless you talk into
Okay, thank you. So we told Greg that this other building that was designed was a great design, but it's not a Los Altos building. It's maybe a Palo Alto building. So in addition, we went down to Loyola Corners, walked the property, and what we want the new design to do is to be really good for the community and have wide sidewalks all the way around, be able to transition, make our building transition to there's going to be new growth down there. So we cannot have an ultra-contemporary building because if you look to the left, Fremont Avenue is, little old buildings. So our building has to be transitional but upbeat, and then it will tie to the new buildings that'll be further down.
Okay, that's it.
That's it?
Time is up.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
So then, what your options are right now is...
I think we need to
you can
take the members of the public.
Oh, yes, but I'm just letting you know that you can review the proposed findings that staff came back. You can make a motion on those. You can make a motion on continuing the matter so that the matter could go back to staff. So you do have a couple options tonight.
And if we, in the context of continuing or not, can we talk about what was presented to us now or not?
Yes, I would say you could. It was presented to you, and it's in an open and public meeting.
Okay, all right. I just want to be clear, and I'm delighted you're here, Jolie, to keep us honest.
Now, I did see some green pieces of paper float by. If anybody would like to speak on this and haven't had a chance to fill out the green piece of paper, you can fill it out
Yeah.
afterward, but I need your name so I...
But if you're,
if you have
I
a
would
green piece
not
of
go
paper here.
into...
Bring it up.
I would wait
Either way.
till, if you're going to continue and discuss this,
Good,
I
yeah.
would not get into the details of this, but you could just
I'm sorry, we should,
not get into the
Details.
details of it, because it has not been reviewed by staff, and and this project hasn't been really
Well,
noticed to
so-
the
I
I
public.
understand.
What I think, just to make sure I'm clear, what we're here to talk about is whether we continue or not, or whether we deny the project for the findings that we had before. Would that be an accurate?
That's correct, and I would do it in
So-
that order, too, because if there are
Right.
three commissioners willing to continue the project or not, then that should be known before we start editing all of these final
Exactly.
findings.
Now, if we choose to continue, it's going to go back to staff, right?
Yeah, and it'll be re-advertised for a later Planning and Transportation Commission meeting.
Okay, so let me do a straw vote.
Well, we've
we
got
need to
public
have
comment.
Public comment,
first.
pardon me.
That's right, Phoebe, we'll keep you
Sure,
honest.
I was the one who asked. Teresa Morris, please.
And we're giving people 3
You
minutes?
keep giving me instructions.
All right, 3 minutes.
Who's
Hi.
timing?
I got them up.
Got it.
Oh, I don't think I'm going to need 3 minutes.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I think it's unfair that we weren't noticed that there would be public comment to this, because a number of people checked in with me about whether or not there would be public comment. I called down to the city and asked if there would be public comment, and we were told no, that there wouldn't be, because all that was being done is to decide whether or not to deny the applicant the right to work with the building that he had proposed. So I'm disappointed that that was changed and that people weren't here and allowed to hear what was discussed. I'll let people know that they can look at this online and see what they missed. So I just want to say that's disappointing. I understand law is law. If it does get continued, I'd like to ask that we have an opportunity to have it continued at a date that would allow the public enough time to discuss it and have meetings about it, and perhaps even have a meeting with the property owner if he's interested in any input from any of the neighbors, so that we don't keep coming back and forth about this project because of the bulk and the mass. And what I'm looking at, it's still bulk and mass.
Thank you very much. Henry Moore?
Can I ask her a question?
Oh, excuse me?
I don't-
Back.
Sorry. Because you do understand, we're not talking about the project itself, but rather that, just what I said, whether to continue or not. And did you have a feeling one way or the other? I heard that you were kind of disappointed that the public hadn't had a chance to comment, but I'm curious what your...
Right. So I don't mind if it's continued or if it is sent to the city council. I think if it goes to council, it's going to come back here anyway. So that doesn't matter to me. I just think it's a little disrespectful to the public that it was handled this way, and I think the applicant is disrespectful to the public for doing it that way, because I think it was a little sneaky.
Yeah, so, and I appreciate that comment. The thing that the public will have the chance, as part of our normal process, if it does get continued, that you guys can look at it, we all look at it. We haven't seen the final version.
So the
We
only
understand.
explanation, which I wanted to make clear that Jolie was explaining to us, is because a vote was not taken at the December 4th meeting,
On
the
the-
action on the proposal that we saw,
Right.
we had the option at that time to either continue it or deny it. But because no final action was taken, even if it was leaning one way because the findings had not been massaged adequately, that's basically where we're at tonight. And the fact that we've seen more material, the decision is still whether to continue it or to, this is recommending to council, whether to continue, recommend that it work with us more or recommend something different to city council.
Right, and I understand that the rules weren't changed on that. When we left that meeting, that's being discussed right now, where it was recommended to have staff go back and write out all the details, it was pretty clear it was going to be denied at that time. So, I mean, people can change their mind, but that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
So it seems like a change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chair, I know the commissioners understand this, but again, to make it very clear, if commission does vote to continue this, it will start the public hearing, noticing, and review process over. So this will not be rescheduled until a complete set of plans are available for public review, mailed notices go out, a notice gets published. So it's going to be a little while before this comes back to the PTC if it does.
Okay, and now Henry Moore? You have to talk into the microphone because we're on TV, sorry, even if you're being brief.
My name is Henry Moore. I live at 1436 Miramonte, which is just up the street. Teresa has expressed my feelings exactly.
Okay.
My understanding was that there was going to be a denial. It was just a matter of the wording that was going to be put together. And I was expecting that to be on the minutes that are up for approval. I wasn't expecting another demonstration of what this building is.
So I have a question for you as well.
Oh, let me go back.
Do you have a preference of the continuance or denial?
I think it should be denied.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any more public comments? Seeing no more, I will close the public hearing, and now we have, I think, two steps. So the first is, it would take a vote of 3 of us to continue. Are there 3 people who would vote to continue this? A straw vote, Mike?
Can I go last?
Yes. Jerry?
I would vote to continue.
Okay, John?
No, I would not vote to continue it because I will tell you the issue here was bulk and mass. This project has been before us for over a year, and, you know, the applicant has not changed the fundamental, issue, addressed the fundamental issue.
Okay, wait,
So-
all right, Ken?
Continue.
Mike?
So my feeling is that we asked the applicant at the end of the last meeting what to do, and I know what he said. I know that everybody tends to be in the heat of the moment. I believe we should continue this matter.
Okay.
But I have some concerns and reservations. So
So you would make a motion to continue.
Well, I haven't gotten to speak yet.
Yeah, and that would be the action item, and and if you have further comments and direction to staff, but you haven't really reviewed this application. Usually I say, when you make a motion to continue, you've already seen it and talked about it and had staff reports, and you give direction why you're continuing it and give direction to do certain things. In this situation, I wouldn't do that. It would just get this continued. If you're going to do that, let staff and everybody get to review it afresh. And so I'm just clarifying. Usually I say, when you continue, don't just continue it with no direction, but in this case, please, no direction, just...
So we're not to say to continue to go to staff?
No, you're going to continue to go to staff,
That's
but
what I thought.
usually I ask, or
So-
staff asks for you to say what your specific concerns are,
I got it.
not just send it down the
Right.
pike, kick the
But
can down.
in this case, the staff actually does know our specific concerns. We have a whole list of them, right?
Yeah, and they do, but you haven't, you're continuing it to have a new
yet.
Sure.
a new
Not
review.
yet.
well, there's 3 to.
Well, the reason I was holding back on not yet is because I heard Mike say that he had concerns.
Right.
And so if you were concerned, I was going to lobby you because I have great concerns. I've had great concerns because the reason I was looking at the findings is because we have seen it come back several times, and staff has seen it many times, And there has not been, in my feeling, a budging from the position that is integral to the design guidelines for commercial and residential, which is bulk and mass.
Right.
And I was thinking, and I'd said, I think John might have said this at the last meeting, is that I would really feel better if even what we had seen tonight reflected some significant change. And I'm concerned that we don't do bad governance, which is, let's continue it, and let's continue it, and it still gets denied. I mean, this man is paying enormous amounts of money for designers, and it continues to do that, and I feel it's not fair to him to put him in the position of saying, keep working with it, and it's never going to get done. That's my concern. I look at this list, which is a bunch of bullets, and I haven't seen much, I mean, other than moving the trash service not being on A Street, I'm not seeing a lot of movement, and I'm very concerned. I think it doesn't do the community service at the very least, and it doesn't do the owner any service. So I'm looking at you, I'm lobbying you, McKay.
Well, yeah, I know. My feeling is that I'm hopeful that because we've made comments at the last meeting about what we didn't like, we've made that before, that those thoughts would be used to look at whatever comes before us, because I don't even see this drawing being right. I mean, I don't know what I'm looking at because I don't have a final thing.
Okay.
And I would like to urge, my concerns are this, that at the last meeting, there was no final plan. It kept changing by the hour as depending on what, when we came here, it was, there were 5 units. We looked at plans for 6. I want to have a final plan. I don't want to have the case that, okay, what we see isn't what we're approving. We're not, look, I mean, we all take our time to spend hours looking at buildings and projects and verifying what they are and what they aren't. But to have a plan that came to us, no vegetation, I mean, there were so many things that were missing. I felt like I didn't have an idea what I was even seeing.
Okay, so paying attention to what Jolie has told us, I am opening the opportunity for someone to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I would like to make a motion to continue this matter for staff review.
Is there a second for this motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries. Now, we are suggesting a continuance, and we are not giving direction other than what has been in the public domain, which is the listing of the bullets of the findings. And the only comment I would like to make is the second bullet, once again, has been incorrect. It says it appeared to residential. In fact, the comment which I corrected in the minutes earlier is it was to residential versus commercial content. It's not an appearance, it's a fact. And so the project is remanded for continues to a date certain to be renoticed to the community with the discussion items noted in our staff report to be used by staff to assist the applicant to more closely approximate what we hope to see and get an application that is complete before it comes before this body again.
And James, do we have any idea as to what that time frame is? So at least the public has an idea when they should start looking for it. We clearly know there are a lot of people who are not here who are interested. Is this a March kind of event, April?
It'd be a late February, March, potentially even April, so it'd be the first and third Thursday, so the third Thursday of February at the earliest, first and third Thursday of March potentially, the first Thursday of April potentially.
So, James, I would like to urge staff that if the application is given and that we send out to the public, if there are any changes for that the matter be delayed so that the public has adequate time to look at this. I mean,
And the planning commissioners,
and
too.
the planning commissioners, because
I agree.
I'm here on the dais and see a total, complete set of different plans.
Right.
Doesn't work for me.
And I agree completely, and that is our direction to applicants. If an applicant comes to a meeting and hands plans out to the commissioners really should just take the position and we're not going to review plans that are given to us at the meeting. They either go out with a packet or they're not being reviewed.
James, and the other part of that is, just at least from a personal point of view, I will not vote on anything that doesn't have photorealistic simulation with in situ building.
Yeah.
So I know you have mentioned that a number of times, and it hasn't gotten done before. And I'm just sort of stating the fact I'm not going to review anything that doesn't have those.
And we understand that. And that is our submittal requirements and our application requirements, and they weren't provided for the last meeting, I
This
understand.
is a very tough site because it's a very small site surrounded by a lot of buildings. And so I think that context is very critical to being able to evaluate the project. And so I'm mentioning that in support of Ken, that when staff is looking at it, looking at the building floating by itself is not as helpful to the commission as being able to see it as part of the larger streetscape and from more than one view.
Actually, I think it's deceptive. It's
Yeah.
the opposite of helpful.
In fact, that is the intent of the renderings. It says specifically the intent is to put the proposal in the context of the existing streetscape for comparison purposes. So that is the intent of the renderings. I think at the December 4th meeting, it was scheduled. We weren't able to get those exhibits, but we understood that there were larger project issues that were not likely going to result in an action that night anyway. So, but we will make sure that those are provided before we reschedule this.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that I found a concern is that everyone mentions the clock tower that's across the street. Well, it's just one little silo. It's the roof line of the building that I think is more important.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
And of course, the applicant always has the option of having one-on-one meetings with members of the Planning Commission to get input.
Yep, good.
Or a study session.
Could they go back to a study session?
Why not? It's a new he's presenting new work.
So, Phoebe, I would like to comment on that. So I did have a meeting with the designers this afternoon, and I originally came to that meeting with the attitude that, sort of the attitude that others here have taken, that this is really just reviewing the various points of a denial, and I wasn't interested in any kind of a continuance. And you can read the email that I sent the designers if you'd like to verify that that was my attitude. However, in speaking with them, I felt that their attitude and the attempts that they've made to try to make the building more appealing to us and to the community were substantial. Perhaps you don't agree in that, but I think, unlike the previous designers, I think these designers are people that will work with staff and work with the commission, and that eventually we'll get a building. That's why I want to continue it, because I believe that there's a complete change of attitude on the part of the design team. And I think it is only fair to both the community and the applicant that we give them an opportunity. And I think had some of you also taken the time to meet with the designers, you would have come to that conclusion as well.
I did meet with the designers, and that's exactly...
Where are all these ex parte people coming up now? We were supposed to say it in the beginning, guys.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you, Phoebe.
And I came to the same conclusion, Ken.
Okay, so I think we're finished with this item. Can Ronit and Malka come back now?
Very good.
Put that back to Ronit.
The reason I didn't say it before is because everyone was pretty adamant in their opinions.
No, but you
And
have to
have to
declare
declare
ex parte that you've spoken
I
ex
forgot
parte.
personally.
That's
That's why I didn't say it.
it's a good thing he did.
It's a good thing, really.
Okay, moving to the next item on the agenda, commissioners' reports and comments.
Let's see, I was supposed to go to the city council meeting.
Uh-oh.
I
What's that modifier?
looked at the city council meeting on my computer.
I actually attended the city council meeting.
Oh,
we
you
go.
want to talk about it then? Go ahead, be my guest.
I'll help you out.
It was awesome in the extreme.
That's the one that was just last Tuesday, right?
Correct.
That was the one that the Civic Center master plan was discussed, and
We don't have anything to do with the master plan.
with the Civic Center master.
As community, we do, but not as...
Exactly. I'm not saying you did the wrong. I'm just letting the commission know what happened. They talked about it. There was a lot of concern. and they're moving forward. I think the architect, or the, who's the agency? Yeah, they're going to come back and present, but the question was the cost of it all, and whether it could be phased in or not phased in, et cetera, et cetera. But would we see that? That's an interesting question. Would we see the final design to get approved?
The final master plan?
Well, or just, when because they're going to do renderings, and I just, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I think we will present that. I'll have to, I don't think that ABA is under contract to present it to the PTC, but we can bring it to the PTC and go
Somebody
through it.
should, yeah, because they have a swim, their complete design was to take over the soccer field, put buildings in there, and change Hillview into a soccer field, baseball field, and that was pretty much it. The other thing
All three of the people who did the sketches, the AIA charrette, realized that the only place you could possibly build was on the soccer field because everything else was so disruptive. And they were also given the requirement that Phase 1 keep this building, the library, and the police station intact. So that didn't leave many places, since
Exactly.
Hillview was the place that needs the most work.
The other thing that was on the consent calendar was the the bus transit system on El Camino, and a letter that was being written to VTA that staff had drafted, and it got approved, and as well as the mayor was recommended that the mayor write a letter to VTA as well with the concerns about traffic flow. That's the only two issues that I would think we would be interested in.
We have nothing to do with either of those.
Any other reports or comments?
No.
How about any potential future agenda items?
Well, I have a question about the 2015 work plan, because it is 2015, and we're going to be meeting with the city council at some point, but I'd like us to have a point of conversation prior to that, so that we can start, talking about what things we'd like to have there and not have there before we all of a sudden
That's a
it's
good idea.
here.
Maybe the commissioners could begin to email individually, not to everybody, to me, topics of discussion that could be brought up with the city council, and then we can put that on the PTC agenda for the full commission to review and
Okay.
winnow down and get it ready.
Okay. Any other potential agenda items? I have a potential future agenda item. I think it would be useful to come up with a protocol in a situation where both the chair and the vice chair are absent or unavailable or recusing themselves to be the chair, who that next chair would be, and it should be some clear protocol that we all decide upon.
Well, that Jolie said there wasn't a norm for that, because it happens so seldom.
We don't have a norm for that. Usually it's the chair and the vice chair, or the
But
mayor and mayor pro tem.
But like in the Senate, right, the House, there's a succession plan, right?
Yeah.
Secretary of Agriculture.
So we could agendize it, and then you could make it an alternate or something. Or when do you appoint the new chair and vice chair?
Soon, I believe.
And I was suggesting that at that meeting, then you vote on the chair and the vice chair, and then
And then
an
the
alternate.
Secretary of State.
Yeah, then
Secretary of State?
something like that.
Speaker
Because-
of the House.
Speaker of the
But
House.
it's never come up before
What
in all my
about
time.
just a blanket, like the commissioner that has the longest tenure on the commission, or something like that, where at least, or whoever's going to,
One suggestion I had was the previous chair.
Or the previous.
or the
And then the
previous chair.
previous chair before
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And I think the PTC can establish their own short-term
That's what Joe was
rule.
saying, is pick what you want.
Yeah.
We'll just
Exactly.
make this so that
I think that
it
makes
becomes
sense.
our norm.
Easier.
The next time you will let the chair and vice chair do this.
Flip a coin.
Hopefully, it's not going to come up again.
Yeah, that was a very peculiar.
Right.
In like
Yeah,
6
no.
years, we haven't had.
What I was going to suggest, though, is that we do a short-term norm for the PTC. We can do it right away, and then the next time the norms get reviewed, we can have that built into the norms for all the commissions. But we can do something right away for the PTC.
So what were you suggesting?
My suggestion was the previous chair, so it would be, the current chair, and then the vice chair, and then the previous chair before that.
And the previous chair
Would
wasn't
be-
at that meeting.
Yeah, well, then-
Problem, we had it was really.
Or the
I'm not
previous
saying-
chair
Well,
before
we'll
that.
put
or
it
the
on the
previous-
next agenda, and then we can discuss the options.
There you go.
Jerry was there.
I was at the last
No,
meeting.
but you weren't at the one where we were going to talk about it. They were
I'd
both
say-
proposed and you weren't here. So So,
December 4th, I was here.
And James, this is just a suggestion, that when we have agenda items where we know we're going to have people have to recuse themselves, that we may want to make sure we've polled people
Yes.
with adequate notice so that we know that we have a quorum.
Yvonne did that.
Yvonne did that.
Yeah.
it didn't work on the 18th.
Right.
Because people had already made plans, that was, yeah.
Yeah, we had confirmation that we had a full commission tonight.
No, but this was the issue on the 18th.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but 18th I was sick last second. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I was not going to be there. It was
No, no,
just.
no.
No, but the 18th, you would have been recused, you couldn't talk
You
about
were-
the, it was
That
Chris and
was
Jerry
not
were
the
here.
meeting. Yeah.
We were down to 3 people.
Yeah, my recollection of the 18th was we have one early notice that we were going to be short one person, and something came up for another commissioner at last kind of minute,
Right.
so.
No, I'm just,
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
okay, good. Thank you.
Actually, what I was going to suggest to the staff was, and something that got done by itself tonight anyway, that if there are going to be items where certain commissioners are going to have to recuse themselves, those items should probably be last
Yes.
on the, because, and it happened kind of by magic this time, but
Yeah.
maybe in the future, you could just see if you could make that happen.
Well, what I've done in the past, when I had to do that, I would, when you get the agenda, I either email David or James and say, look, could you put item 1? It's done before you even get here.
Right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and
Rudy
we can
handled
do
it.
that, but the city council, a council member may recuse himself on item 3 and then come back for items 4 through 12 still. So it can happen both ways. But yeah, we'll try to do that next time.
But in this case, it was the chair who had to recuse herself, so then it's hard to open the meeting
Yeah.
and everything with the,
I thought you did a good job.
It worked out great.
Did a good job recusing.
Okay, and with that, we'll adjourn on that note.
Hey, James.